Alright everybody, welcome back to a brand new video here on the second channel, and we finally got the rest of Surging Sparks revealed here, and we're going to be looking at the remainder of the cards. We even got a couple of extra gym promos revealed, which I don't think are going to be in Surging Sparks, but they will be in a future set, obviously, so we're going to look at those too. And we did get a new EX revealed, some new item cards, and we even got a brand new Pokemon that honestly might be the end for Stage 2 base decks. This new Pokemon is really good against Stage 2s. I'm definitely excited to look at all of these new cards in today's video. And if y'all are new here to the second channel, make sure to subscribe down below. We're on the road to 18,000 subs. And let me know what you think of these cards down below in the comments below, especially the new Gastrodon card, which we're going to be looking at. And of course, I'll leave a link to Pokebeach here down in the description if you want to go take a look at any of the cards for yourself. So we can get into it here. Like I said, the rest of the cards got revealed. We haven't looked at this new Exeggutor yet here, but yeah, we did get a new Exeggutor here. Could be a fun Bad Deck Friday card. It's got the attack Explosion. Does 60 damage. You flip a coin for each energy on both active Pokemon. Does 60 for each heads. Now, it's actually, I don't think we've ever had a card that does like something similar to this, where it's kind of like the X-Ball effect, where you're doing more damage for each energy on both Pokemon, but you get to flip a coin. So, kind of cool if your opponent has 3 energy on their active. This attack could do 180 alone on the 3 coin flips, that you flip 3 heads, and then you also got your own energy. So definitely a pretty fun card. I'm definitely going to enjoy making some content on Exeggutor. I love coin flip decks, and Exeggutor is a fun coin flippy card. Then, of course, we got the brand new Durant EX. And I did do a YouTube short on this, which for some reason tanked, so go watch my YouTube short, please. But this new Durant did get revealed here. It is a Grass-type basic Pokemon, 190 HP, and it's got the ability Sun and Scrape. When you play it from your hand on your bench, you may use the ability, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. Now, that's not a bad ability. I mean, you play it down, you discard a card. You can play multiple Durant down in a turn, it looks like. It doesn't say it's limited to once per turn. So you can technically bench 4 Durants from your hand and then mill 4 cards immediately. So that could be a pretty fun combo. I don't know if you're going to be able to, like, reuse Durant. I guess there's, like, Penny and Turo and Scoop Up Cyclone in the format. If Super Scoop Up ever gets reprinted, then there you go. You can, like, reuse Durant over and over that way. I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but you never know. But yeah, Durant's definitely interesting. Its attack, Revenge Crash, does 120 and then does 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has already taken. So that's kind of cool. So you actually have like a decent attack. I mean, you are a grass type, right? So you do have the type advantage versus Charizard. And much like Charizard, your attack does do more damage as the game goes on. I've seen some people talk about playing Durant with Dusknoir and stuff for more damage, and also you can play Fortress EX to power up the Durant, and then also make it do more damage immediately. I mean, with Fortress, you're already doing 180 damage with the boost. I think mainly the draw this card is going to be the ability. It's more of like a late game attacker anyways with that attack, but the ability is I definitely think where this card gets interesting. Like, if you can just bench a bunch of Durants in one turn and then mill a bunch of cards, it's pretty darn hilarious. Maybe you can power this up with Gardenia. I don't know. Like, an all-out Durant deck could be pretty funny, but it is an interesting card. Moving on here, we do have a new Vivillon. I don't think we've looked at this one yet. It's got the attack Evolution Pattern. For each of your bench Pokemon, search deck for a card that evolves that Pokemon and put it onto that Pokemon. Now, that's actually really cool. It's basically TM Evolution. Now, it is a Stage 2 Pokemon, which is kind of the only problem with this card. It is a, Stage 2, so it's a little bit slower. Like, TM Evo is a better card because you can use Arven to easily find it going with a basic Pokemon instead of having to put a Stage 2 in play. But it's kind of cool. Getting to evolve all your Pokemon right away is nice. I mean, if you fill up your bench with a bunch of Pokemon, you can just immediately evolve them with Vivillon, and then maybe there's something there. I don't know. It's an interesting card, but nothing too crazy. We've looked at all of these cards already here. Paldean Tauros got a Hardy Tackle, 90 damage. Your opponent's active is Stage 1, does 90 more damage. Don't really think there's any situation where this is good. I'm not sure there's any relevant Stage 1s in the format. I guess this card cooks Goldengo. There you go. We do have a new Victini here. I don't know if we've read this one yet, but it's got the ability Victory Cheer. Attacks used by your Evolution Fire Pokemon do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. That's kind of cool. I mean, Evolution Fire Pokemon, there's a few of them in the format that I can, think of. There's like Incineroar EX and stuff. You can't use it with Charizard EX from Obsidian Flames, obviously, because that is a dark Pokemon, but not a bad support Pokemon for fire types. There might be other fire evolutions I just can't think of right now. But I mean, you know what? It's not a bad card. If you ever get any other like cool fire Stage 1 Pokemon, Victini could be good with them. You could use it with Scovillain. I guess like the new Scovillain EX that got revealed too. New Volcarona here. Doesn't really do anything too crazy. Centiskorch, nothing too crazy either. See what else we got here. We've looked at the Skeledirge already. The Palkia Skeledirge combo. hybrid card. New Armor Rouge. I don't know if we've looked at this one yet. It's got the attack Crimson Blaster. Discard all fire energy from this Pokemon. Does 180 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Nice little snipe attack. I mean, you could play this within like an Armor Rouge box deck, right? As like a one prize attacker. It can finish the game off by sniping a Squawkabilly or a Lumineon or a Mew EX, which is nice. So there is the benefit to playing the Armor Rouge. Sarah Ledge here. New single price Sarah Ledge got the attack Blaze Curse. Discard all special energy from each of your opponent's Pokemon. So another anti-Lugia card. I mean, to be fair, we are getting 3 different ways Lugia can get countered within this set. And we're going to be reading another new card very soon, which I'll talk about later, which does also counter Lugia because it shuts off Archeops. But then you also have the Megaton Blower Ace-Spec coming out in this set. And then we have the Sarah Ledge in this set. I mean, Pokemon really want to kill off Lugia with this set, apparently. Even though I don't think it's actually going to happen. Then it's got the attack Black Flame Slash. Does 116 during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack. I mean, the main draw of this card is that first attack. I mean, if you're playing an Armor Rouge deck and you're scared of Lugia, which, I mean, does Arc Armor Rouge even lose to Lugia? I don't even know if it does, because you have, like, plays with Delphox where you can snipe both Cinchinos and stuff. I don't even know if it's a bad matchup. But, I mean, hey, if you're struggling against Lugia, just play Sarah Ledge in your Armor Rouge deck. I mean, you could play this in the Sarah Ledge EX deck, too, I guess, which is nice. So there is that. Sarah Ledge EX is looking like a decent meta deck, and you know what? If Lugia stays relevant, it could be worth playing this guy in the deck, too, just to counter Lugia, maybe. I've looked at Scovillain, New Paldean Tauros. It's got the attack Uppercut Horn, 30 damage. You may put 2 energy attached to your opponent's active stage 2s in their hand. Now, that attack is actually kind of interesting, because if you're playing against, like, Charizard or something, you can force 2 energy back into their hand, and then all of a sudden Charizard cannot attack you unless they go Rare Candy Charizard, and then put energy back onto the Charizard. So that's like the only way they could do that. And it does work with a DT. Could be an interesting card to have in like a control deck. Maybe, probably not, but you know, it's a cool idea though to like make it hard for Charizard to attack you. New Walrein got revealed with Frozen Fang, 60 damage. During your opponent's next turn, Pokemon with 2 or fewer energy cannot attack. Now that's an interesting idea. Now, there are Pokemon in the format that do attack for 2 or fewer energy. You know, speaking of which, there's obviously Charizard EX, which only needs 2 energy to attack. Now, your opponent can obviously attach a 3rd energy to attack, but you know what? If you can be kind of annoying and make your opponent waste resources, there is something to this Walrein. It's not a bad card. Like even Terapagos, which needs a double turbo, cannot attack. It's only doing 60 though, so it's a little weak, but maybe you could play Walrein with like Frostlass or something for extra damage. Its other attack only does 170, but yeah, that first attack honestly isn't bad. There's a lot of Pokemon in the format that could kind of get annoyed by Frozen Fangs. Definitely could be an interesting, like, anti-meta-y type of card, so definitely not a bad card at all. It is a stage 2, which I guess is also like a downside of it. We got a new Shempao here with the ability Snow Sink. When you place Pokemon from your hand on your bench, you may discard a Stadium and card in play. Now, this is similar to the Pumpkaboo we used to have from Evolving Skies. Now, Pumpkaboo did see a lot of play because it countered Path of the Peak. Shempao does not counter Path of the Peak because there's no Path of the Peak in the format. The other thing with Pumpkaboo is it was in the format with like Quick Ball. It was very easy to search out Pumpkaboo. Shempao, you can't just like Nest Ball for it and then activate the ability. You have to play it from your hand. So Shempao is a lot worse than Pumpkaboo. There's also no Level Ball in the format, another card that Pumpkaboo had access to. Shempao's value is not as high. Now, there are still stadiums to get rid of. Area 0 could be a really nice stadium to get rid of with Shempao. You can play Shempao down to remove Area 0. That's, like, not too bad. You can also get rid of stuff like Neutralization Zone, if that ever comes up in the format. But overall, like, it's not really that great of a card. I mean, it's fine. I don't know if there's a stadium worthwhile right now that Shempao like hard counters, other than literally Area 0. I might be missing a stadium, and honestly, I might be trolling, but I think Area 0 is probably the one stadium Shempao counters. Now, if we ever do get a Path to the Peak, Silent Lab, Power Plant type reprint, this card will probably see play. It's also just not really a good way to search it out. Like I said, you can't Nest Ball for it. The only way to put it in your hand is to either have it in your hand or Ultra Ball for it. There's no real way to like search it out like really well, like with Quick Ball and Ultra Ball combo in the format like with Pumpkaboo. Pikachu EX, obviously, we've looked at that. We've looked at the Magneton. We've looked at Magnezone 2. This new Rotom could be kind of interesting for a control deck. It's got the attack Crash Pulse. Your opponent reveals their hand. Discard any items and tools you find there. And then its other attack does 20 damage, and then does 20 free energy on your opponent's active. The main trait of this is going to be that first attack, Crash Pulse. Pretty deadly attack. I mean, imagine playing against, like, Snorlax, for example, and their hand is, like, 25 cards. You just hit them with a Crash Pulse, oof. Or even just using this against Lost Box, for example, where they're obviously going to have like multiple switches and Mirage Gates and Super Rods in their hand. Or even just using this against like Charizard EX. You can remove Forest Seal Stone. You can remove Defiance Band. You can remove Heroescape if that's their ace spec. You can even remove, obviously, the rare candies, the unfair stamp. Honestly, this card is pretty strong. I think this will see play within Control install decks because it's a very strong card. It only gets rid of items and tools, but like that is pretty good. Items are good. I mean, it's basically like a stronger Eerie in a way because you kind of have to use it in the same vein as an Eerie. You could play this with Xerosic Machinations, where you can go Xerosic, and then your opponent gets rid of a bunch of cards, and you know they're keeping good cards, and then you can Rotom them to remove those good cards, putting your opponent out of like good resources. So that could be a really interesting combo you could play with Rotom. Yeah, definitely a really annoying card. I don't know why Pokemon keep printing these like really strong like hand disruption-y control cards. It's kind of toxic. To be fair, the format is really fast right now, so that's why like Eerie isn't really seeing any play outside of Snorlax and Control. Like, Eerie saw a lot of play before in the Charizard meta because, Charizard was even playing it. But the format is a lot faster now. Eerie's value is decreasing because you can't really put Eerie within Charizard because it can't keep up with, like, Terabagos, Palkia, and Regidrago. So it might not see play right away, but the format ever slows down again, this card actually could be good. And I think it'll immediately find a home within Control install, for sure. New Substrika, pretty bad card. We got a new Stunfisk here. Flip a coin of heads, your opponent has paralyzed, discard energy from it. Nothing too crazy. New Tapu Koko, pretty sure we've already looked at that. We got a new Kilowattrel. I think Kilowattrel EX is also coming out in this set, from what I remember. Yeah, Kilowattrel EX is coming out in this set. It's not that great of a card. I'm pretty sure I've done a video where I looked at it before if you want to go back on the channel and find it. Now, there's a new Miraidon here to look at. Now, it's got the attack protection code. Does 4 damage during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage done to your future Pokemon by attacks your opponent's EXs. Now, that's not a bad attack. Now, the only problem is if this Pokemon leaves the active spot, the effect stops working. So I don't know how good this will actually be. Now, you could play this with, like, a bunch of Iron Crowns. It's still a future Pokemon, right? So you can go Iron Crown, hit pretty hard, and then force your opponent to have to Gust to deactivate Miraidon. But, I mean, in a format with, like, Boss and Prime and Counter Catcher, I don't think this card is very good because, like, it has to move from the active. Now, obviously, it'd be a little too good if it, had the effect where it's, like, completely shuts it off, but yeah, if it moves out of the active spot, the effect stops working. They had to balance it somehow. So it could be a fun, like, wall deck, but overall, like, your opponent can just go, like, Boss and just, like, completely nullify this card. It's unfortunate. Looked at the new Togekiss already. Pretty broken card. Looked at the Lake Trio, I'm pretty sure. New Cofagrigus here. This card's kind of interesting. Underworld Law. Put 6 damage counters on each Pokemon in play that has any abilities. Now, that's kind of cool. It's very similar to an old Weavile we had from Burning Shadows, which wasn't a bad card either. It did the same thing. Not a bad effect. I mean, your opponent plays a bunch of abilities down. You can just Cofagrigus them a bunch of times. There's a Mimikyu in the format that you can use to play this with. And there's also the Alakazam from Tron Masquerade that lets you move damage counters around. Those are probably the best ways I can see Cofagrigus seen play. Not a bad card, for sure. We've looked at Meowstic. Dedenne does have that sonar attack, much like Regieleki does, where you can put a trainer if you're discarding your hand. So when Regieleki rotates, control decks can play Dedenne instead, which is not as good as Regieleki, because Regieleki's 130 HP is actually really relevant, where Dedenne's 7 HP, not so relevant. Though, it is Poffinable. Keep that in mind, which is nice. You can Buddy Poffin for it. Looked at Palisand. New Indeedee here. Caretaker heal. When you place a card from your hand on your bench, you can heal 30 damage and a static condition from your active Pokemon. And it's like, okay. Not really worth playing this, though, in my opinion. Kind of eats up immense space. I've looked at Fluttermane, I'm pretty sure, here. New Primate. Nothing too crazy. Is it the optimal Primate? I don't know. The new Annihilate got revealed with Destiny Fight. Both active Pokemon are knocked out. Not terrible. I mean, free KOs are free KOs. Now, the problem is you knock yourself out, so you do give your opponent a prize, too. But, I don't know, you can, like, knock yourself out going to, like, Mimikyu or, like, Thorns or Klefki or something. Just an interesting thought. It's not a bad card. I mean, you're counting both active Pokemon, right? So you're able to knock out, like, Charizard. You could play this with, like, Counter Gain to use it for 1 energy. It's just an interesting thought. And we got the last Paldean Tauros here. Block Stomp, 90 damage. The defending Pokemon's basic, cannot attack. It's like, okay. I mean, it's not bad, but, like, your opponent could retreat or switch out of it. So I think the Water Tauros is probably the best one that got revealed. New Donphan. Donphan's always had interesting cards. I don't know if this one's very good, though. It's got, like, Overwhelm, 1 for 40. Attacks damage isn't affected by effects. Meh. And then he got Guard Rolling 120. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. During your next turn, this Pokemon takes 100 less damage. If you can find a way to, like, constantly accelerate energy to it, I guess you could play this with, like, Claydol or the Garganical, I guess, to put energy back on it. I mean, you can give this thing effectively 250 HP. You can put, like, a Rigid Band on it to give it, like, 280. maybe there's something to it. I don't know. Just finding ways to, like, put energy back on is a little scary. More of a bad deck Friday card, but it's cool anyways, I guess. Now, here's where this is... this card is kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie. Gastrodon is the counter card we needed. Now, this is a step in the right direction, in my opinion, on fixing the problems with the format. So it's got the attack, or the ability, sorry, Sticky Bind. If this Pokemon is on the bench, benched Stage 2 Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents have no abilities. Now, immediately this card shuts off Pidgeotto X, Archeops, and Dusknoir's on the bench. Now, it is only limited to the bench, so, like, if your opponent, at the start of their turn promotes Pidgeotto X, they can just quick search in the active spot. That's one of the issues. But it is pretty good against Lugia, for example. I mean, this card literally shuts off Archeops. Like, I do think Lugia is potentially going to drop off in play because of Gastrodon. Because, like, it is really hard to do that. Like, I guess you can, like, attach a Jet to an Archeops, put in the active spot, but then you only get one Primal Turbo. It's not as good as getting two Primal Turbos. This card is actually really strong against Lugia. It's also a Stage 1, so it's, like, really easy to get into play. You just get a Shellos out, then the next turn, evolve in a Gastrodon. It also shuts off Dusknoir on the bench. Now, Dusknoir can still work in the active spot, so it's not a perfect counter to Dusknoir. If your opponent starts with a Duskull, they can just, like, evolve, or at the start of their turn, they can promote Duskull, Rare Candy, Dusknoir. So it's not a perfect counter to Dusknoir. Like, it is really good against Dusknoir. It's really good against Pidgeot, and it is ridiculously good against Archeops. It's also good against Gardevoir, another Pokemon that likes to sit on the bench as a Stage 2 Pokemon. So it's really good against those cards. It's not the perfect counter. Like, Pidgeot can still kind of go against it. Dusknoir can kind of go against it too, but at least it does make your opponent a little bit more awkward with their decisions. They can't quick search on the bench as often, and they can't Dusknoir on the bench. That's not a bad thing at all. I am glad we got this card. It is not the greatest counter to these Stage 2 Pokemon, but it definitely is a nice card to have in the format, and I am happy they printed Ability Lock in some way, shape, and form, because I've been asking for, like, a Garbotoxin reprint for a while, or even a Path reprint. I think the format would be a lot better if Ability Lock existed. The fact that we're getting Ability Lock back with Gastrodon makes me pretty happy. It's not a bad card at all, and I'm definitely very happy to see this card get printed. Some people are like, oh, this card is toxic. It ain't toxic, man. I think Stage 2's abilities are a little out of control right now, and I think there needs to be some kind of counterbalance in the format to these overpowered abilities that, we can't really keep in check right now. Now, I don't think this is going to solve the Dusknoir issue completely, because I think Dusknoir is still a very problematic card. I mean, to be fair, if your opponent goes first with Dusknoir, they can just Dusknoir your Shellos before they evolve, so that kind of sucks. Though I guess the logic is, if they're killing your Shellos with Dusknoir, they're not Dusknoiring your actual, like, good Pokemon, like your main attackers and stuff, and support Pokemon, which I guess there is logic to that, but it's still just not a good time. Like, Dusknoir needs a better counter than Gastrodon, in my opinion, or just a flat-out ban. But you know what? It's a step in the right direction. It is nice to see this card get printed. Let me know what you think of the Gastrodon down in the comments below. New Glimora, I think we've already looked at that. We do have a new Koraidon. I did a YouTube short on this one, but it does have the attack Intense Assault. Does 30 damage if one of your other ancient Pokemon used an attack last turn. Does 150 more damage. Now, I have been corrected. You can't use Koraidon with itself over and over again. You can't chain Intense Assault, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But it could be a good attacker with an ancient box, obviously. 180 damage for 2 energy is really good. Also could be pretty good within Raging Bolt as a really good way to do big damage. Also, it's a fighting Pokemon, which hits for weakness against Terapagos and stuff. It also goes pretty hard against Terapagos with Bouffalon. I don't think Slitherwing can one-shot Terapagos with Bouffalon and play where Koraidon can. So there is value to Koraidon over Slitherwing right now. We've looked at Hydreigon. Very happy we're getting it. Grafaiai. It's got the attack Energy, Graffiti. I don't think we've looked at this yet. Does 40 damage for each energy on all of your opponent's Pokemon. I mean, not a bad card either. And it's got Mischievous Paint. Attach up to 3 energy from your opponent's discard pile of your opponent's Pokemon. So you use that first attack to combine with the second attack. Though I don't think the Grafaiai is surviving a hit at that point. But it's cool. Petrunt promo is getting in this set too. Alolan Dugtrio. I think we've already looked at this. New Bronzong. Nothing too crazy there. New Eternus we've looked at. Tasgiri we've looked at. Slacking, Zangoose, I think we've looked at. We got a new Kecleon here. Any damage, or we haven't looked at it yet. I mean, whatever. Anyways, any damage is done to this Pokemon by attack. Flip a coin to fetch from that damage. So it's one of those Pokemon like Dragapult and stuff where it cannot take a hit. Though its attack isn't very good. Does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So kind of a mediocre card overall with that ability. We got Bouffalon here. It's got the attack Awaiting Horns, 40 damage, and if it gets attacked, it takes, your opponent's active attacking Pokemon takes 6 damage. Probably not worth playing over the other Bouffalons in the format if you want to play the Bouffalon. New Oranguru, nothing crazy. I think we've looked at that. New Melsold here. Family March, search check for up to 2 Melsold or Melsold EX and put them on your bench. That's kind of cool, I guess, to get Melsolds in play. The attack Does 30 damage. You flip both coins, 30 for each head. So at most you're doing 120 for one. It's mediocre. So yeah, we've got some new cards to look at here in the item section. We got Mystery Set. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and then you may put them back in any order or shuffle those cards and put them at the bottom of your deck. That's interesting. So you can guarantee stuff at the top of your deck for like Electric Generator. You can use this with Slow King. Those are some of the cards that I thought of with Mystery Set. Also kind of good against like Iono. You can like play this card before an Iono, which is kind of cool. I guess not a bad card at all. I mean, assuming your top 3 cards are good, obviously. But yeah, it's a cool card. Does have synergy with some cards in the format, so there you go. Looked at all these cards already. Looked at that. Looked at the berries. I'm pretty sure we looked at those berries, right? This one is dark, and this one is... maybe not. This one is block. Okay, maybe we haven't looked at this one yet. This one blocks damage from metal Pokemon, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, there's not really any metal Pokemon in the format relevant. I mean, there's Goldango and Dialga, but they're not popular enough to want to play this in your deck, I think. Looked at all these. Looked at that, I think. Yeah, we have looked at that. Jasmine, we've looked at, I'm pretty sure. Looked at the stadiums. And yeah, that's it. We've looked at all the cards in the set. So there you go. That is Surging Sparks, fully revealed. We are, getting a couple promos, like the Kilowattrel EX is going to be in the set. But now we can look at the gym promos here real quickly and see what they do. All right, so we got a new Hippowdon here. It's got the attack Great Sandstorm, does 150 damage, and then the attack does 4 damage to each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent. Kind of mediocre. I was hoping we get a better Hippowdon card. Hippowdon's a really cool card. And then finally, we got Rabsca. Well, we have 2 more cards. But yeah, we got Rabsca EX here, which is a brand new EX Pokemon. Stage 1, evolves from Rellor. It's got the attack Upside Down Draw. Draw 3 cards from the bottom of your deck. And then the main attack, Psychic, is where things get interesting. Does 20 damage, and then 90 more damage for each energy on your opponent's active Pokemon. So it's a pretty strong effect. 90 more damage for each energy is pretty good. Now, if your opponent has 2 energy on the active, this attack alone is going to be doing 200 damage. If they have 3 energy on, you're doing, what, 290 damage? That's kind of insane. This card is definitely a pretty hard hitter. Now, it depends on really what's in the format this card is going to attack into. It does hit Charizard for weakness, and it can one-shot Charizard because they'll have 2 energy on them. So there are benefits to this card. You can obviously play it with the other Rabsca in the format that, does protect you from Dragapult and Regidrago. This card does one-shot Regidrago, actually, too, because it is doing 290 damage. So it's not a bad attacker at all in this meta. It just kind of does damage to Pokemon with a lot of energy on them. And if any more Pokemon come out that have a lot of energy on them for their attacks, Rabsca's going to come in and clean them up. So that's kind of the idea behind Rabsca. So definitely not a bad card at all. Kind of cool. It is a grass type, so you have to power it up somehow, like Gardenia or something. You can double turbo to it, I guess. But then double turbo makes the math a little bit more awkward. It's cool, though, nonetheless. It is going to do a lot of damage, especially if your opponent needs a lot of energy to attack. Like Iron Hands, for example, gets shredded. And then... finally, we got TM Machine here. Search deck for up to 3 tool cards with Technical Machine in their name. Reveal them and put them in your hand. I don't know if this card is that great, considering, like, you can Arven for it, but, like, you can also Arven for the TM you need. You can only play 1 TM a turn anyways, because it's going to be your attack, right? This can get you TM Devo. This can get you TM Evo. Not really worth playing, I don't think. The best part about this card is you can play within, like, a tool drop deck, I guess, where you need a bunch of tools in your hand so you can attach your Pokemon to do more damage for, like, Electrode or Pachirisu. That's the only... value I can see TM Machine getting in the format right now. Not a terrible card by any means, but I don't think it's very worth playing because, like, you have Arven, which is just a better way to find TMs because you only play 1 a turn anyways, right? So not the worst card. Again, it's mainly going to be used in tool drop decks. But yeah, the highlight of this was obviously the Rabsca EX, which is kind of decent. And yeah, there you go. Those are all the new cards that got revealed over the past weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, leave a like and let me know what you think of these new cards down below, especially the Gastrodon card, and let me know what you think of Rabsca and Durin, all that stuff. Let me know in the comments below. That'll be it for me. And yeah, if you're new to the channel, subscribe down below. We're on the road to 18K subs, and I'll leave a link to Pokebeach down below if you want to check out any of these cards for yourself, and I'll catch you all later. Bye-bye.